This is Chris Armitage. Chris Armitage does a Substack entitled The Existentialist Republic, and this is his Substack for today. Republicans will try to steal 2026. Here's the law that puts them in prison. So he laboriously covers how they've been rigging this ever since 2020. 1/3 of Congress denied the 2020 election. Nearly all of them still hold office. In 2026, they might not need to accept results that cost them power, but history says they likely won't. 156 election deniers hold congressional seats. The Republican National Committee has deployed over 100,000 election integrity volunteers and attorneys across battleground states. Donald Trump, he controls the pardon power. Meanwhile, Republicans have gerrymandered the system so thoroughly that Democrats could win the popular vote by 5 points and still lose the House. Factually, even if Democrats overcome the rigged system and flip the House anyway, the margins will be razor thin, 3 to 5 seats, maybe less. Close enough to contest, close enough to claim fraud, and this time, unlike 2020, Republicans have the institutional power to act on it. So 84 fake electors signed fraudulent certificates in 2020 claiming that Trump won 7 states that he actually lost. County officials refused to certify results in 17 cases that year. By 2022, that number jumped to 22, a 30% increase in just one election cycle. Of 291 Republican candidates who denied or questioned the 2020 results, 170 won their races in 2022. By 2024, the consolidation was complete. 31% of the House, 20% of the Senate, 23 statewide officials with election oversight authority. And then Trump won with the help of voter disenfranchisement and gerrymandering. Republican confidence in election accuracy jumped. Harris conceded immediately. No Democratic denial, no calls for investigation, no recounts, no claims of fraud. But Trump used his victory to expand control, issuing executive orders threatening to eliminate mail-in ballots and bring honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. Federal courts blocked the orders as unconstitutional. So if you have faith in Republicans' willingness to abide by court orders rather than gain power at all costs, then feel free to stop reading and trust that everything will be just fine. For those of you still reading, you know that Republicans will accept results that they win, contest results that they lose, and have few checks on their power to do so. So there are federal laws for penalties for election subversion. There are conspiracy against voting rights, which allows up to 10 years in prison. Obstructing federal proceedings provides 20 years. Seditious conspiracy charges. And Trump granted clemency to nearly all of the J6 defendants. Full pardons for 1,500 people, and commuted the sentences for 14 extremist group leaders, including Stuart Rhodes and Tario, whose seditious conspiracy convictions remain, but who walk free. State prosecutions reveal an even deeper problem. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel charged all 16 of the state's fake electors with forgery and election law violations, carrying maximum sentences of 14 years. In September of 2025, a judge dismissed everything. The reasoning was precise. This is a fraud case, and we have to prove intent, and I don't believe there's evidence sufficient to prove intent. One cooperating witness testified that defendants believed they were acting legally by creating an alternate slate. So the Michigan dismissal establishes a blueprint for 2026. Claim good faith belief in election fraud and thereby give activist sedition-friendly judges the cover that they need to make criminal intent impossible to prove. Georgia's RICO case against Trump and 18 others is functionally dead after the DA's permanent disqualification. Only Arizona's prosecution of 11 fake electors plus 7 Trump aides is moving towards trial in January 2026, and defendants will deploy the same "we believed it" defense that succeeded in Michigan. So he goes on to talk about the 84 fake electors across 7 states. Only one has been convicted as of October 2025. She received probation with no jail time. So criminal statutes exist. Prosecutors can file charges. Judges accept good faith belief as an insurmountable defense. Or Trump pardons anyone who gets caught. But 4 states have enacted a different category of law since 2020. Statutes so specific in defining prohibited conduct that good faith defense fails. These laws don't rely on proving subjective intent. They establish objective violations with mandatory penalties. 4 states have statutes that work. Colorado criminalizes fake electors specifically, up to 20 years in prison for knowingly signing false elector certificates, with each certificate a separate offense. Arizona criminalizes certification refusal, 1 to 5 years for willful refusal to perform a mandatory duty, plus expedited court orders compelling compliance and daily fines until officials act. Colorado, Minnesota, and New York protect election workers with criminal penalties of up to 5 years for threatening or doxing officials, privacy protections for personal information, and required security sources. These laws define exact prohibited conduct. No proving intent, no good faith defense. You did this, then you go to prison. But the critical swing states remain dangerously exposed. Pennsylvania, with 19 electoral votes, has no fake elector statute and no specific criminal penalties for certification refusal. House Bill 2473 would fix both problems, aligning state law with Electoral Count Reform Act deadlines and establishing strict timelines for resolving challenges. It passed the House 105 to 97 with 3 Republican co-sponsors. It sits stalled in the Republican Senate. So, the Brennan Center puts it directly. Several of the states that Trump specifically targeted in 2020 remain vulnerable to election subversion. And the math for 2026 creates perfect storm conditions. Trump's approval rating sits at 45.3%, net negative by 7 to 10 points. Every president with those numbers has lost Congress in the midterms. Every single one. But Republicans have gerrymandered themselves with a 6 to 7 seat structural advantage. They've passed voter suppression laws in 28 states since 2020. Democrats need to flip only 3 seats. 18 seats are rated toss-ups. 11 House seats in 2024 were decided by under 2%. Historical patterns say that Republicans should lose. Structural advantages say they might not. If Democrats win anyway, the margins would be close enough to contest. Of course, the Electoral Count Reform Act closed the loopholes that Trump exploited for presidential elections, but it doesn't cover congressional races. Speaker Mike Johnson can refuse to seat Democrats in closed House races under the Federal Contested Elections Act, and courts ruled in 1986 that they have no power to review those decisions. If Johnson refuses to seat 3 Democrats claiming fraud, Republicans can keep control regardless of the results. Prepare for them to try, because being unprepared is an unacceptable outcome when the stakes are this high. 84 fake electors signed false certificates and 1 received probation. The lesson was clear. You can get away with it. But the one pathway to accountability running through state legislatures is meeting right now. Pennsylvania's HB 2473 sits in the Senate. Wisconsin considers certification protection bills. Georgia faces lawsuits over state election board rules. The 3 laws that work exist in model form: fake elector criminalization, mandatory certification with criminal penalties, and election worker protection. With 3 phone calls this week to your state representative, state senator, and attorney general asking about specific pending bills and criminal accountability for election subversion. The Voting Rights Lab maintains a live tracker of every election bill at votingrightslab.org. Find your state's pending legislation, reference the exact bill number, ask whether your representative will support criminal penalties for fake electors and certification refusal before 2026. Become a poll worker. County election offices face desperate shortages, forcing consolidation of polling places, creating longer lines that discourage votings. Some counties pay $100 to $300 per day plus training, no experience required. When engaged citizens staff polling places instead of partisan appointees, subversion becomes operationally more difficult. So state legislatures are considering 2026 election bills right now. The window closes in months, not years. Every constituent call creates political pressure. Every letter to the editor shifts public opinion. Every poll worker makes subversion harder. If you want to play hardball, then call your elected representatives high-dollar donors via publicly accessible data, and then ask them why they fund someone who refuses to protect election integrity. Republicans have built this infrastructure of theft right in front of our eyes. The law that could stop them exists. 4 states have these laws, and most swing states don't. The difference between 2026 ending in certification or crisis depends on whether citizens force their states to enact protections that carry actual consequences.